There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
Welcome to this post-game podcast edition of the Program Guys podcast. Oh my goodness, what a game. Your Oklahoma Sooners pulling out the final Big 12 regular season game in their history in Norman, 69 to 45 over Matthew Gann's TCU Horned Frogs. A fun game, an inspiring last Big 12 game for some guys. Let's just go opening thoughts. Ryan, what are you thinking coming out of that game against TCU? Here, hold on, a little bit more table setting. We know that Oklahoma will not be in the Big 12 conference game.
Yes.
So that is out of our hands. It's already over. BYU has failed us. I will never listen to another Mormon again. Now, Ryan, give me your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, I approached it, I'm approaching this game in kind of two different ways, right? Like, this was our final Big 12 game, right? Like, even, I mean, there's a chance we play somebody in the Big 12 in a bowl, but most likely no. So, like, this is our final Big 12 game as a member of the Big 12 conference. And like, that to me is really exciting. And I think overall, if you look at this game in particular, I think a lot of the things that we have seen this year have popped up. You know, we saw a pretty incredible offensive performance across the board, especially with our wide receivers, and a lacking defensive performance, especially in the second half. I thought the first half they played well, second half they didn't play well. Overall, though, this team is 10-2. This team went through their schedule, got 10-2, which I think I had 9-3 first in the pregame pick or the preseason pick, and then I changed it to 10-2. So like, most of us landed on 10-2. This is where we thought we would end up. Is this where we thought we would end up after we beat Texas? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, like, this is a successful season. This is Brent Venables' second season as a head coach. We go 10-2. That is successful. We have improved in almost every single way from last year. And I think really, like, that's the biggest takeaway from this game and what I was seeing. If you compare what we saw, on Saturday to what we saw against TCU last year, I know it's like apples to oranges. It's a little different. But this team was just so much more prepared and so much more. They did what they were supposed to do, which was win the game and improve how you've been playing from the previous year, right? So my overall thoughts are the defense looked atrocious, and BV's got to clean that up before the bowl game. But I'm happy. Like, I'm overall happy with the season. I'm overall happy with the finality to it. I'm overall happy leaving the Big 12. It feels like we're moving into a different direction. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the pod. But like, this is like exactly where I think we need to be going into the SEC. And I think we're just more and more prepared for that transition across this year.
Patrick, opening thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I'm overall happy too. Surprised to just see that scoreline 69 to 45. It feels like we are the opposite of what we were at the beginning of the season when we beat SMU 28 to 11 and then Cincinnati 20 to 6. And now we're getting in shootouts. I don't know what changed, but that's just wild to me because, and I guess it was the defensive regression, or maybe it was the offense getting a lot better and the defense not able to play the complementary football because the offense is playing better. So we're getting into these shootouts, but I thought the defense was going to continue to keep teams under 20 to 25 points, and they did here and there. But just a weird way to end the season because that was more of a 2019 Oklahoma football game.
Yep, I agree with that. Generally, I think that I agree with everything that Ryan said about feeling good about the final result of the season. You know, I feel like we'll get into that a little bit on this week's upcoming pod, but you saw it come through in a lot of ways in this game. Like Ryan said, you look year over year, TCU last season was in the national championship. TCU this season has fallen off a cliff. Meanwhile, Brent Venables goes 6-7 to 10-2 and has a team looking like a 10-2 football team, playing like a 10-2 football team moving into the SEC. Let's start with the offense, guys. Just another masterclass by Dylan Gabriel. I don't know what else you can say.
Yeah, he was
I
great.
really sort of, stumbled onto this earlier, or I guess yesterday. I was thinking about it as all the other pieces have moved throughout the season. Like Dylan is the constant on offense, and Drake is too, but Jaleel's been inconsistent. The other receivers have been inconsistent. No one knows who RB1 is until 4 weeks ago. And it's a beanball classic up front with the offensive line. We have 2 guys starting yesterday who weren't even in the rotation at the beginning of the season in Caden Green and Jacob Sexton. So I'd shout the hell out to Dylan Gabriel because that's his last game as a Sooner, and he did everything he possibly could to put his name in record books, in the annals of OU history, in whatever you want to call it. He's done everything right.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, just his stats: 24 for 38, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then also 36 yards on the ground as well. He couldn't have had a much better day.
He had one really bad interception, but
yeah, sure. That's true. He did
tacky,
underthrow the ball quite a bit, but
he did. But he was throwing bombs. They were not afraid to throw bombs, which we've been asking for a while, and we've seen more and more over the last couple of weeks. But this week especially, I mean, you don't score 69 points without throwing just tons of bombs down the field. So,
I think 3 touchdowns, right? There's one that deep ball to Jaden Gibson, just the most badass shit in the world what Jaden Gibson does on that play, walking in, cheering with the crowd, and the deep one to Brendan Thompson, right? If you're going to give me 2 touchdowns for every pick on those deep throws, I'm going to take the math. Going to take the math. But to Patrick's point, you have that pick and you have Gavin Freeman muffing that punt earlier, just an absolutely unacceptable. It's not really the offense, but just putting the defense in a bad position with both of those plays. Maybe that contributes to the 45 points that's given up, right? Other guys on offense that I think we definitely need to touch on. Gavin Sawchuk goes for his 4th straight 100-yard game, 22 carries for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't get what's going on, like what has gone on in the running back room all year, but I love that Gavin Sawchuk is the guy now. He looks so good. He looks back to Cheez-It Bowl form. Patrick, what do you think about Gavin?
Yeah, he does. And that makes me very optimistic going into next year, too, that we do have that number 1 running back. At least I think it's pretty clear at this point. But yeah, overall run game, again, an impressive game. Wide receivers, the Brendan Thompson throw just made me so mad because we could have been doing more of that all year. And I don't know why we only used him in 2 to 3 games. Anyway, Jaden Gibson, another great game. I think, Ryan, you texted us, but Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson, that's just a dangerous duo heading into next year as well. Nick Anderson, sure, you can still see that freshman-esque where he maybe like drops a ball, doesn't get the he's not 100, like he's not 100%. He gets A- scores every game or B+ scores every game, but obviously his touchdown amount is wild. So once he cleans up those little things, which I'm sure Emmett Jones will do with him, he's going to be just an absolute dangerous wide receiver for us.
Co-offensive coordinator Emmett Jones.
Co-C, baby.
Co-C, baby. The receiving core is the craziest room to me because we never get to this group of Stoops, Anderson, Gibson, Farouk, kind of as I think your regular 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
We never get there if Andrell Anthony doesn't go down. And if Andrell Anthony doesn't go down, he's probably wide receiver 1 all year, and we don't have the same kind of breakout from Drake Stoops. There's just such a butterfly effect behind these things that landed with, like we said at the beginning of the season, you getting meaningful reps and meaningful opportunities for your Nick Andersons and your Jaden Gibsons in the last game of the season. By the end of the year, Nick Anderson's running a route on every single play almost. That's a win for his development, I think. And even though he doesn't score yesterday, or 2 days ago, he goes 4 for 97 on the day. What more can you really hope for or ask for from him? Ryan, your thoughts on the receivers, the running backs, either of those things?
Yeah. So I think, I did tell you guys like during the game, I was like, Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, these freshmen, like we are set up in the next coming years. Jackson Arnold, hopefully, will be our quarterback. And that we are set up for like really, really great things in the receiving room. But man, are we gonna miss Drake Stoops? That dude has just blossomed into an absolute leader and the person that you can arguably, maybe outside of DG, trust the most on this offense. And that is not something that you can easily just substitute with more talent. We're going to need to see somebody kind of take over that position next year. And I'm really interested to see who that is because, Drake has been there for so long and he's older and he has more experience. And when we're talking about these stud wide receivers coming in, they're young. They're young, and can they answer like the call for what Stoops has been able to do, especially over the last 4 games. So that's like one of my biggest questions going in the next year. I think if Anthony is able to come back, he maybe fits into that role pretty well. But again, he's a transfer. Like he's not literally like the blood and tears of Oklahoma like Drake Stoops is, right? We're really going to miss him next year. And I'm so thankful that he has been able to blossom and show like who he actually is as a player. And hopefully that will take him to be able to play football on Sundays. I guess we'll see. And then, for the running backs, we've all been waiting.
Real fast, I've come around on NFL Drake Stoops. I think it's going to happen.
I
think
it might happen. I think it's going
to happen. I don't know about like draft status, right? Like
he might be like a free agent or something. I don't know about that,
but he's going to land. Like
I think
just because he didn't actually play lacrosse can't mean he's not a former lacrosse playing wide receiver in the NFL. That kind of white guy. Sorry, go ahead on the running backs.
No, I'm glad that we've gotten to the point now where we know who we have, and that's Sawchuk, and I feel like we've known that for a while, for at least the last 3 or 4 games now. But I'm still concerned with how long it took us to get here. But we're here, right? And we've seen the talent come out of Sawchuk and what he was able to do last year versus Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl, and like what he is able to do on these last couple games, I think is great, and is he technically a freshman? Was he a redshirt last year or is he a sophomore?
I think he's a redshirt freshman.
Okay.
Sawchuk's a redshirt freshman. Yeah.
Again,
yes, he is.
We're talking about the best talent we have. And I'm going to say this on the defensive side too. So spoiler alert, the best talent we have is young, very young. And I think that bodes well for us going into the SEC because we were able to see how we can leverage these weapons that we have. And we got better and better and better on the offensive side throughout the year, leveraging them. So overall, happy with the offense. I think they played a stellar game. They saved our asses pretty much. And I don't ever want to see Gavin Freeman on the field again.
Oh my God.
He just needs to be taken off.
It's like it's going to happen before it even happens. He's so thirsty to make a play, and he puts himself in just the worst positions when he does it.
It's just it just wasn't great. I mean, that's kind of venturing into special teams, but it's just not. The experiment's over. We tried it. It didn't work. He has literally 1 rushing attempt for -8 yards, and he's not on the board for receiving for Saturday. Like it's not working. So like, let's stop trying to do it. No,
he's a gadget guy and a special teams player, and he shouldn't be returning anything. We have too many guys who are too talented at the return spot to keep giving him chances based on what he did 9 months ago in the spring. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And we got to the end of the year doing this crap. I really no me gusta.
I want to say one thing, and I know we're going to touch on this more. But if this is indeed Jeff Lebby's last game as Oklahoma's offensive coordinator, I think he did a hell of a job. I thought he was great. I think he took all the criticism that we've had throughout the year and really learned from it. Is he perfect? No. But like, I thought this was obviously a much better offensive display than arguably we've seen all year. And that's a great way to go out if he indeed is leaving. So
I thought you were about to say Gavin's going with Jeff. If Jeff leaves,
maybe.
that's where
I don't know.
with it. Like,
Jeff's got an army walking in behind him. They're all out. Yeah. All right, guys. Offensively, any final thoughts?
no.
No, not really. Yep. Just more Drake Stoops being an incredible playmaker all the time, all over the place. On to the defense. Any opening thoughts there? Ryan, let's start with you, buddy.
They were bad. Like they were like there's been a lot of regression in the defense, which is really unfortunate. And I don't really know why exactly. I think you can get into it and you can see like some of the linebackers are missing their spots. They're not closing in on the holes like they used to. They're not swarming the ball like they used to. There really seems to be a lack of or a diminishment of the confidence of the defense. And I think that leans into making more mistakes and making more errors and not playing complementary football or playing balanced football. I mean, I guess that's the same thing. But I thought they played pretty well the first half. They got put in some crappy situations like the muffed punt and gave up some points. And then they really fell apart in the third quarter. And I don't know if it was, I think it was us several weeks ago complimenting the defense in about the middle of the season around how they were able to make adjustments at halftime. And it's like they've gone the opposite direction. So overall in defense, I think that they still have so much to learn. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, and expecting that we're going to get most of our big guys back on defense for next year. And again, I think our very, very talented freshman class that we have is only going to get more experienced. So I'm not like throw up the white flag and get the sirens blaring, everything it's doomed because our defense sucks again. I think it's more like a hiccup, and I want us to be able to get back to that confident defensive team. And Brent Venables, as a defensive minded coach, needs to be able to do it. So I'm overall, for this game in particular, defense was crappy. It was not good. You do not give up. How many yards did they give up?
Infinity.
600 something to TCU. Like
Imani Bailey still.
If your offense doesn't save your ass during that game, you lose it. So I don't know. You don't want that. And I think Pat made a great point earlier that's like, if we just kind of like switch places here where we've kind of found our identity in offense, but we've lost our identity in the defense. So I'm not like super worried because, last game of the season, mentally, maybe they just like weren't there that day. I do want to be able to see some swings back to what we saw earlier in the year.
I want to point out one drive real fast, Patrick.
Sure.
To open the third quarter, Oklahoma gets the ball, has a 5-minute drive that results in 3 points, 15 plays, field goal. TCU gets the ball, 6 plays, 78 yards. They score a touchdown. The very next play after the kickoff, Dylan Gabriel throws an interception, and the TCU offense gets right back onto the field. TCU essentially has the ball for 16 plays, runs 142 yards in 4.5 minutes time. If you just count that one Dylan Gabriel interception as like, hey, just give him the ball right back to him, right? Defense got run all over during that stretch of time. And you have to think to some degree, it's just, hey, we can't keep being on the field. That's twice that, like I said earlier, turnovers just throw the defense in a terrible position. And it leads to points on both sides. It leads to points in the first quarter with the muff punt that goes right into the end zone for a touchdown for the TCU offense. And this one right here, defense can only do so much. That said, someone who did a lot, does a lot, and is a lot. God, Billy Bowman is so good, guys. I can
He's
watch him play
fantastic.
football all day long. He could be returning kicks. That was a conversation that we had at the beginning of the year,
but
right?
you don't want him hurt.
Sure. I'm just saying, look at the guy return that pick. He's got instincts. We've got guys with instincts.
Put Farouk back there.
Put Farouk back there.
Yeah,
He had one pass for 7 yards. Like, what else is he doing? No offense to Farouk. I think it's just.
I worry he might be a transfer guy.
He might be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not sourced at all. I'm not going to pretend anything, but like, why hasn't the offense gone through him a little bit more is a question I would be asking if I'm Jaleel Farouk.
Sure. I think the answer is you're not Nick Anderson or Jane Gibson, and you haven't shown what they have. And
the real answer
just happens.
is that you're going to look awesome in Starkville.
Yeah.
It's like really, really good in that maroon. Sorry, we got away from the defense. I thought, man, I really like our safeties. It sucks that like Key played a really great game for Key. Reggie is on every run play. He's just fitting like he needs to. And you just know how bright the future is with Peyton Bowen and Robert Spears Jennings next to Billy Bowman back there. If you can bring back Billy, that's a threesome at safety that's absolutely filthy.
I think Billy's coming back. I think Billy's coming back.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, the people you need back are the two in particular are Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman.
Yeah.
Like, and there's others there too that you want back also, but like I just roll out the NIL for those two because those are the two most important pieces that you need next year in this defense.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. The defensive regression is really interesting. I think it could be maybe two main things. Maybe, especially with the linebackers. Why are the linebackers all of a sudden worse when Brent Venables is our linebackers coach? That's kind of alarming. But maybe they started getting too complicated with the schemes as they trusted the players more, and that wasn't working anymore. And we needed to simplify it again, but we just kind of didn't. The second thing is we haven't had a solid cheetah, and I think the defense is really revolves around the cheetah at times. You saw it in the Texas game with Deshaun making huge plays to make the goal line stops. We just didn't have that the back half of the year, and I think that really hurt us more than maybe we were realizing.
Yeah, Kendall Dolby steps in and plays well, but isn't the physical presence that Deshaun McCullough is, or the just ball magnet instinctive playmaker that Peyton Bowen was when he was playing the position early in the season. Kendall Dolby did great, but Kendall Dolby is really a nickel. And so while he has some instincts and can play out in space like that, would like to have someone with a little bit more heft to close in on the box. I sort of agree with that in that when Danny came back from injury, I mean, he leads the team he's second on the team behind Billy Bowman, who has 9 tackles. Danny has 8 tackles yesterday. He looks good. He looks like Danny Stutzman, but it seems like since his injury, the entire linebacking play has been off. It's been a step off. I don't know what it is. I can't attribute it to anything without like watching every game back or anything, but he hasn't been 100%. And I think Kip Lewis played great in relief of Jaron Kanek. Do y'all think that Kip Lewis has been incredible since then? No, he's played. He's played well.
He's been good though.
He's been good. He's earned playing more than Jaron Kanek. I grant that for sure. But since becoming a starter, since teams have gotten their eyes on him, I don't think he's been as effective as he was early on. And that's probably part of it, is we've got a young group of linebackers. I don't think you have to worry about any of these guys, except for Danny Stutzman, not coming back and being a lot better next season. Like not having those reads down a little bit better next season. Jaron Kanek might actually just be a pass rusher in linebackers clothing because he's just way better rushing the passer. But between him, Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, and if you can get Danny to come back, you've just got a team.
Yeah.
you've got a real team or a real linebacking core, I guess.
Yeah,
Any final
something, but
thoughts?
I
Go
mean,
ahead.
something broke when Danny got hurt, and like not like literally, but like something in the scheme or in the linebacking core broke when he got hurt, and they've had a really, really hard time putting that back together for what they have seen, like what we were able to see before, like he got injured, and it's like I know they can do it. And all of these young people, all these young guys are going to be a year older with more experience. I think Kip Lewis has been stellar for a redshirt freshman all year. We have some really, really awesome talent. Like we have awesome talent and they're so young. And I'm so excited to see what they can do. But we have to figure out how to put it together.
Patrick, last
Yeah,
thoughts on the
love it.
defense?
That's all I got.
I love it too. All right, before we get to our program guy MVPs for the game, there is speculation, rumors, possibly more. We don't know.
Possible sources?
You don't know. As of right now, it is unclear. But Jeff Lebby is definitely under consideration for the Mississippi State job. And we might not have time to waste before next week's pod to actually talk about this. So let's go ahead and get in front of it, guys. What are our thoughts on the speculation? What are our thoughts on the rumors on the possibility of Jeff Lebby full on leaving the Oklahoma Sooners? Patrick?
I think it's a huge possibility, and I think if he gets the offer, he should go. I think it's a great opportunity for him.
Mm-hmm.
There was some weird things this year with Art Browse coming on the field, some Brent Venables quotes that were just off. And I don't, we were probably making that a bigger deal than it actually was. Not the Art thing, but the Brent Venables comments. And if it was a bigger deal to Jeff Lebby too, I think it's just time in a way. I think he did a great job at OU, but it's time for him to go get a head coaching job if he gets a good offer. And the weird tension, I just don't see that happening with Seth. I feel like Seth and Brent are more aligned to the hip just in their personalities, what they want to build, how they want to build it, than Lebby and BV were.
And for anyone listening, Seth there is Seth Luttrell, currently an offensive assistant on the coaching staff who many have said is probably in line to become at least like a co-OC for, in the instance where Jeff Lebby leaves. Ryan, what do you think? Is it, I don't think it's good. Like, I don't think it's a net positive to lose Jeff Lebby. What do you think?
Okay. So I just want to first say, Patrick just saying Seth without no context is so funny.
I mean,
love that.
Listening,
I love that
He's the
so
man.
much.
He's
I love
the
it
man.
so much. He's like, yeah, you guys know who this is. So do I think this is positive? No. Do I think this is negative? Not really. I think it's like kind of just where I think it's kind of a, it's kind of like right in the middle, right? I think if we talk about some of the negative components of this, how is this going to impact our recruiting? How is this going to impact the 2024 class, especially on the offensive side of the ball? I saw a couple like tweets from, commits that were like, oh, with like ... like after like some of the speculation started coming out last night. And like, we're going to have to weather that storm. Like this is the difficulty with losing a coordinator, one of the top 3 roles on your football team, to another school. And like, you have to know that this is going to happen. I think if I'm being honest, I didn't think it would happen this quickly. I mean, we went 6-7 last year, not decent on the offensive side of the ball. We were like top 10 offensively, which is fantastic. But like, we were 6-7, and then we came back, kind of had a redemption there this year. I'm interested and kind of surprised on why people are looking at Jeff and saying this is head coach material. I don't know if he's quite there yet. However, some people think he is. And I think, with, what is AD's name in Mississippi State who came from
Zach Selman. That's why
Zach Selman. Yes.
That's why Jeff Lebby
I think
is
that is the connection
a
there.
conversation
Yes.
here, I think.
That is the connection here, and that's fine. if he decides to go, I wish him the absolute best. I think the positives of this are a lot of things that Pat said. I think, Jeff has been hit or miss throughout the 2 years that he's been here. He runs a very simple offense, but sometimes it feels like he can't get out of his own way. I think that, we have coaches on this staff already that I think do align a little bit more with Brent Venables and the vision that he is, building for this university and this university football team. I think one of those is Seth Luttrell, who has head coaching experience, and is a little older than Lebby, and is just, I think he's a great, and I know we're not talking about possible substitutes if this happens, but like, that seems to be somebody who aligns
live right now.
Guys.
Lebby has accepted the job.
Oh, cool. Okay, so now we can talk
we'll
about
drop
this in real. Now we can talk about
There
this
we
in
go.
real time.
All right, guys. So co-offensive coordinators Seth Luttrell and Emmett Jones. How do we think that offense looks?
First thing I'll say is,
I think the co-offensive coordinator thing is weird. I think
That's what I was gonna say.
It's a money thing.
I know it's a money
thing. It's the
thing.
same. It's the way that Todd Bates is a co-defensive coordinator.
Yes, I know,
It's
but
okay.
who's the real one? Like,
It's going to
who's
be
the
Seth
real
Luttrell,
one?
I think.
Yeah,
I would
he's
think
going
he's
to
the
be
one who calls plays. That's what I would expect there.
Now, is this interim? Or
That's
is
what
this
I was gonna
going
ask.
to be, are they going to do a coaching
5-year
search
deal for Lebby. I'm sorry.
What's the amount?
I will let us know.
Thanks.
That's
Yeah,
a lot. That's a lot.
that makes sense.
5 years, baby.
Here's my thing. I would rather us stay internal with internal hires than go external. There's no one, sure. We can name a few, I'm sure, but there's no one that I really feel would be significantly better than the guys we have internally. And I think that there's just been this culture that's growing over the last 2 years. Bringing someone in could influence that culture. And I just, these coaches know the players. Staying internal when you can is the way to go, and I hope we do.
So you want to entertain like a Garrett Riley?
There it is. I was waiting for it.
Maybe
Well,
a
I thought
Jimbo
you were gonna.
John Fisher.
I thought you were gonna say someone with the last name of Riley, and you were gonna trip up Pat because he was gonna think it was Lincoln.
No. Hey, there's Kendall Briles too. If we're talking names,
Hey, I'm ready to
someone
get out
who's
of the
coached in the
Briles.
SEC.
I'm ready to get out of the Briles
Same.
coaching tree.
Same.
I'm ready to be done with it. Garrett Riley, I think, would be awesome. There's no way in hell a Riley name is coming to Oklahoma.
Where that happens.
No way.
I think there are probably very few guys outside the program that they would even look at to bring. Because I think anyone who comes in is going to want to bring their guys too. And unless Lebby is able to convince everyone on the staff to go with him, and I doubt that happens. I think Joe John Finley probably goes because they're best friends. But DeMarco's not going anywhere for anything less than an OC job, I would think. Emmett Jones is going to stay. Seth Luttrell is going to stay. Matt Wells is probably going to stay. Beanbaugh, maybe? Maybe? He seems to vibe with Lebby pretty well. I think that he vibes with Lebby pretty well.
He's been at OU for
and
so
he's not
long.
necessarily a Brent Venables guy.
But also he didn't leave when like Gundy left. He didn't like I don't know.
Yeah,
I just
no
don't.
one left when Gundy left. That was a very unique thing.
You mean he's been here through all the different defensive coordinators, and I think he stays as well. We match most anything I think Mississippi State could give him from a compensation perspective. He's a guy we keep.
That's a good point too. Is like, unless you're going to give someone such a raise in title, how are you going to really take them from us?
It's like the big questions are who goes with him from a staff perspective or who goes with him from a recruiting perspective. He's a great recruiter. That's one thing we're going to miss. We're going to miss that a lot, I think. And I don't know much about like Luttrell's recruiting, and I don't know much. I know Emmett Jones can
head
recruit
coach at UNT,
off.
man.
Yeah,
I
mean,
you can tell UNT stories, but Lebby could
at least has ties.
Yeah,
That's what I mean from a recruiting perspective.
He has ties.
Yeah,
he was the tight ends coach at North Carolina. Before that, he's an OU guy. Like, this is his alma mater, which was Lebby's too. But like, this is obviously a place he wanted to come back to. He took after the UNT head coaching job didn't work, he took a analyst position here. I mean, like, this I think has been like the plan. I know Josie is smart enough to understand that Lebby was not going to be here that long. He was going to get taken. You look at who of the coaches he has been under. You look at the Bryles connection. You look at the the Ole Miss connection with Lane Kiffin. Like, people are going to want that guy. Obviously, we're seeing it with Mississippi State. I think this was in the plan. I think there was a reason they brought Luttrell in as an analyst, and I think this has kind of all been set up. And I don't think they probably expected it this year, but sometimes you just have to do it. So I think, to answer your original question, Mark, I think that it's a kind of a wash on a negative and a positive. I think there are positives to it. I think there are negatives to it. I don't think we'll fully know until we start next season and we really see where the offense is at.
Yeah. And see, the things that I'll want to see are, all right, let's assume it is Seth Luttrell. Will we have consistency, rhythm, routine, and flavor to the offense? Or is it going to be picking and choosing out of a hat what play we run when? That's what I feel like the entire Jeff Lebby experience has been offensively. Now, the recruiting has been off the charts. And we've got guys that have been stars on the offensive line, at the quarterback position, at the running back position, at the wide receiver position, while Jeff Lebby's been the coach. So he's gotten the best out of a lot of these guys. I don't want to disparage any of that, but I think that there's a way where you can have more of an identity offensively than we've had the last 2 years, while still adhering to a lot of the same principles of score from far, run the shit out of the football, and throw it deep. Like, you can do all of those things a little bit more smoothly, I think, than we have the last couple of years. And I hope that that's what we would see. Patrick, any last thoughts on Lebby officially leaving, taking the job at Mississippi State, and are you looking for an OC?
My last thing is the relationship with Jackson Arnold that he had. I know that Jackson Arnold's not going to Mississippi State. His father said something along those lines the last couple of days. But still, there was a relationship and a connection there that Jackson felt very comfortable with. And that could spook Jackson Arnold to a certain extent. And that might not be seen or realized right now. Or if things are like, hey, why isn't Jackson playing as we thought he would? Maybe that could be one of the reasons. That's kind of somewhat of a concern for me, but I also know Jackson's like the best quarterback ever, and he's going to win a Heisman, so it's going to be fine.
And his dad came out and said,
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
So I feel good about it.
For any of the listeners, Patrick was on Caleb Williams being better than Spencer.
He was.
When Caleb was still in high school. Patrick called this Seth Luttrell thing when he was hired. So
True.
If he ends up being right about Jackson Arnold, that's 3 for 3. And we have to admit, Patrick knows football. It's a hard one to come to terms with, but I think we'd have to.
Day.
I'm actually I actually just pulled up the date. I called it before Seth was hired. I called it December 22nd in a podcast that
there it is.
Of course you have
Seth Luttrell was going to take over for Lebby. So
I love that. That. Come here to the Program Guyz podcast for your most breaking news. We are years ahead of the competition. Years, baby. All right, guys. Last thing, Program Guyz MVPs, PGP MVPs. I don't know why I keep messing that up. For the last regular season game in Big 12 history for the Oklahoma Sooners. Patrick, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Dylan Gabriel. I thought he had a great game, great season. I saw a tweet somewhere that said he had a better passer rating by like 1 point than Caleb Williams did. That's just cool. Really happy for Dylan getting that last game in against a team he got hurt against in the past, beating them, and just playing really great. Really hope the best for him in his future.
Love that. Ryan?
I think this one's easy, and I think it's Drake Stoops. Like, what a way to go out. What a way to have your last home game. He's like the epitome of Oklahoma football, and we're really going to miss him. And I'm very, very thankful that he was on this team for as long as he was. So, Drake Stoops.
Second, all of that, and I'm going to go with my first ever back-to-back PGP MVPs. Billy Bowman gets it for me. It's the part of the interception when he gets wrapped around and has to cut across the field, and he's just weaving around people to do it. He's just, the way he plays football is almost pretty. Like, he's just so fast to the ball. He hits perfectly every time. He's in coverage the way he needs to be every time. Mr. Jada Coleman is an absolute star in the secondary, and give him a few weeks of bowl prep and he is going to knock the shit out of whoever we play in probably the Alamo Bowl. So my PGP MVP, second week in a row, Billy Bowman. That's going to do it for us, guys, in the last regular season post-game podcast for the program, guys. That's a lot of P's. And geez,
a lot of P's.
Last post-game podcast for the program, guys. As always, you should like and subscribe. You should tell your friends about us. You should comment. Let us know anything that you might think about the game. Let us know how we're wrong. It's so much more fun when we're wrong, right, guys? And
you were saying that? You?
No, I know. Well, I mean, because then we can fight back. Then we can fight back a little bit. Come at us. I don't think I'm missing too much else, but yeah, like and subscribe. Follow us everywhere. And Patrick, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being